Welcome to the LivXplore podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit like and subscribe. Welcome, everyone. I'm Sean Payne, founder and owner of LivXplore Real Estate and Lifestyle. Today I have with me again Isaiah Chass, our founding agent.
Absolutely. Excited here. Fourth part of the series, how to prepare for moving.
This is the fourth series. If you haven't seen the other three, please go back and check them out. And if you like any of these, please hit like and subscribe. So anyway, we're talking about how to prepare a concrete lease. So you've sent out the applicant, the application, you've got it back, you've vetted it and really have gone through it very well, and you've selected a tenant now. And so, or you think you've selected someone that you want to move in. And so the big part of this chapter is just making sure that everything goes through, and don't assume that anything. Don't assume anything. So do not let anyone move in or allow them to put their belongings in until the date of possession. And this will be really common that you'll have a tenant like that will, like, let's say it's the first of the month and the property is vacant right now, and they'll say, oh my gosh, would it be okay if I have access to the garage and store a bunch of items in the garage, and we won't move into the home, we won't go into the home, is that okay? No. They don't have their renter's insurance policy isn't going to be put in place, until the lease is active that way. If by chance they put something in there and let's say the home burns down, they are not covered that way. So it's just, as a general rule, do not let people's belongings go in there, and certainly don't let someone move in prior to their lease date that way. Also require full rental payments to avoid any situation where they pay like a partial rent, which can cloud the eviction process that way. List joint responsibility in the lease for if there's roommates or something of that nature. List the responsibility of both tenants, or what the responsibilities are. Tenants are responsible for their roommate's actions. So you can't have like a lease that says, well, this tenant is responsible for this and this tenant's responsible for that. If the property's damaged and the interior is damaged, both tenants should be on the hook for that. So don't segment out certain responsibilities within the lease. For the accepted pets, list the exact breed and name of the pet to avoid any confusion that way, and on which pet's been accepted. That way, all of a sudden, you don't come in and that brown 25-pound dog is now like a different color 70-pound dog. So just make sure that you're specific that way. Maybe even take a picture of the animal and include it as addendum in the lease that way. And don't allow smoking on the premise, as cigarettes can leave a stench in the property. Doing both sales and rentals, it can be very difficult to get out smoke smell, and often requires having the whole property repainted and all the carpets or flooring taken out that way. So just make sure that they don't smoke, and that's included in the lease that way. Request deposit and rent. Well, here's something that you wouldn't think this has happened, but I have heard about it over the years. Never personally happened to me, but one of the major mistakes is taking the property off the market before you actually receive the funds. They've cleared the bank account, and it's just like, people are flaky. Tenants are very flaky that way, and often what happens is that when the time comes, they've changed their mind, or this isn't this can't happen. Maybe there is actually two homes that they're really interested in, and they weren't sure they're going to get both of them, so they went through both processes all the way to the end, and they got them, and then they decide, you know what, I'm going to pick the one that I want. Not a great way of doing things at a tenant, but that does happen. So you don't want to stop marketing that property, and you want to continue to communicate with those previous people that you'd spoken to until the check's cashed and the check's cleared. That way, once you have the money in the bank, then you're good. But before that, don't make any assumptions that way. So.
And then you also want to confirm that they have renter's insurance
Yes.
in place from
Right.
the tenants. One of the many mistakes that a lot of landlords make is not requiring renter's insurance and not confirming it. So they might say they have it in place, but they don't actually have it in place. There could be flooding, there could be break-in, there could be damage, and you don't want the tenant coming after you for damages. It's much easier to tell them to submit a claim to their renter's insurance company than them coming after you for it. And on top of that, your homeowner's insurance policy or your landlord's insurance policy also allows that that company could go after the tenant for any damage for the property.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you just want to ensure that that's in place. I think it's $250,000 for personal liability is recommended. We can go back and confirm that.
And generally, renter's insurance is very reasonable that way.
Yeah,
it's something like, when you're talking to your landlord, they may say, we have to require renter's insurance. It's important to have a copy of their policy because your homeowner's insurance probably requires that they have renter's insurance. So again, just to make sure that you're compliant with your policy, make sure that they have their policy.
Right.
So.
And it is really reasonable. I think maybe $200 for a 6-month term. It's super affordable. It's
depending on the property, but
right,
yes.
Right,
I mean, especially if you're like, if you're in a your typical, let's say 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom home, anywhere from like 1,000, 2,000 square feet, it's going to be generally very reasonable that way.
Totally. So you've gotten there, you've had the lease signed, you've gotten the deposit, you've gotten the first month's rent. You've verified insurance. Now move-in process. Get ready for move-in. You want to have everything ready for them. Obviously a set of keys, but you do not want to give them the keys until you make sure you have all your ducks in a row that we just mentioned, from a signed lease to the deposit and everything. It just goes back to letting them into the property before their move-in date. It's a good idea to have it professionally cleaned and have it to the level that you want it returned at. It's a good idea to have a welcome guide, how to operate everything, whether it's appliances, water timers, anything that anyone living in the home.
Water shut off. That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that there's a wrench to shut off, at the main to be able to shut off the water, have a wrench there and in a diagram where they know where to get it. So if there's an emergency, if a plumbing leak breaks, your property isn't destroyed because the tenant couldn't figure out how to shut off the water. So things of that nature, electrical panel, things of that nature are really important.
Yeah, obviously, as a landlord, you're going to have your selected vendors for plumbing and electrical and this and that, but it's always a good idea to have everything laid out, that anyone living in the home, that anything that they should know, that they do know about the home, because at the end of the day, they're going to be living there, and if anything happens, they should understand what needs to be done to address it if it is a very imminent issue that needs to be addressed. Once you get everything ready for them to be moved in, you want to conduct a move-in inspection.
Yep. Yeah. So this is something, I'd recommend, walking through the home with a tenant. And again, what you want to make sure is you when you're showing the home, you probably should have already had it clean. I mean, if the home shows better and cleaner right off the bat, it sets expectations for the tenants. So we always like to have the property clean prior to showing and then touch it up, before the tenant moves in that way. But that way, again, like both when you're showing it and when the tenant's there, you've set the expectations of how clean you want the property, and they have an understanding, sort of like a standard, expectation that way when they return the unit. And I would be, you want to be thorough with the move-in inspections. Walk around, look for dents in the baseboards. Look out any drawers that may not be sliding correctly in the kitchen, things of that nature. Scratches on the wall, any appliances not working. Really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I'd recommend doing this prior to renting the property to make sure that you know what's going on. But if you haven't, or it doesn't hurt to go through it a second time.
Even when they're there, turn on the oven, turn on the stove. That way there's no argument, when they're 4 days, into the property, have already been there, they say, well, this doesn't work. Well, we walked through the home at the day of move-in and all this work. So we'll get someone out there to address that, but it's not something that, we gave you an item for.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. You can pay also, 3D tours have become more popular. And so when we rent out a property, we do a 3D tour, and then we keep that tour because it really shows the condition of the home. So if there's any, hey, there was the scratch on the wall, or no, there wasn't, we can pull up that 3D tour and see it that way, which makes it really nice. It doesn't work for appliances and things like that, obviously, but it's still like a little extra tool in your hat to have. If you're not going to be able to have that ability if you're just renting out your own place. There's various services that that conduct 3D tours, that may be a good idea to do something like that. But again, like you really want to document the condition of the property.
It's not even a bad idea to, walk through the property and take a video and then email it over to the client, not the client, but the tenant, and say, hey,
Yes.
this is the video we took from today, just confirming that, you have a copy of it.
Right. And, if you don't have you don't have to have a 3D tour, but take pictures. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, and the more pictures, the better. That way. And again, like just, try to document. If you have a very nice home, you want to be able to show that. So take lots of pictures showing that the home's in really good shape, that you didn't have those scratches on the wall, that, that door damage from your tenant's pet wasn't there before, things of that nature, that all the screens on the windows were there, that there wasn't the one in the backyard missing, that way, that everything was there, because those things will come up, So you just want to really document the move-in inspection really well, because it'll make your life so much easier when the tenant vacates the property. It'll negate the arguments and things of that nature. So.
Totally. And that way, when you do the move-out inspection, you can go back and itemize everything from there. So we hope that covers everything from the rental management aspect.
With that being said, I think that concludes our series for finding and selecting the best tenant. Isaiah, thank you very much for putting this together, and hopefully I think people will get a lot out of this.
Absolutely. Let us know if there's anything more about this process that we didn't cover and you'd love to hear about. We're happy to go into more depth with you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this can be overwhelming. We do property management services, and we're very reasonable. In fact, I think we're probably, from what I've seen, probably the most reasonable in the industry, and we'll do a great job. So if this does become overwhelming, we're always here for you. But if you enjoyed this series or any of our podcasts, please hit like and subscribe so you'll see more of them in the future. I'm Sean Payne, founder and owner of LivXplore, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the LivXplore podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit like and subscribe.